Hi there, it's Malcolm. I'm joined by my colleague Wayne today to talk about minimum property values. So in all forms of lending actually, whether that's buy-to-let, residential or later life, many lenders do have minimum property values. So just generally, Wayne, why is that the case that lenders are happy to lend on a property that's worth £500,000 but perhaps not happy to lend on a property worth 40 or 50,000?
I think, again, any lender will always be looking at what happens if everything goes wrong, and if you know, and we don't get paid, and the customer's struggling, they have to take that property into possession, and they then have to sell it. And I think there's a worry that on the lower value properties, are they going to be appreciating in value in the same way as, you know, larger value properties might, and will there be enough equity in the value that they eventually sell it for to actually cover all the costs that they're going to incur if they have to take the property into possession.
So we're back to this kind of repossession thing again, and will they be taking into account like the areas that those properties are located in?
Yeah, I mean, and they'll take into account the area, because obviously that'll have a knock-on effect on values. They'll also, you know, they will look at things like, you know, their exposure to other properties in that area. So if they've got a lot of other mortgages on properties in that area, then that might restrict their desire to lend on a particular property.
And what's different about the sort of later life products in terms of because it's something that does come up on a more regular basis, this minimum property value. What's so relevant about later life lending?
Well, I think the one thing that you can say with particularly equity release lending is that the debt that the lender has in advanced is going to increase, because that's one of the main, you know, attractiveness of doing it, is that you're not paying payments, so your debt's going to go up. And if the value of the property is not increasing at the same rate as, for example, your debt is increasing, then clearly at some point the lender might run out of equity, theoretically. And because they give a no negative equity guarantee, that's obviously a concern for them. So they want to make sure that the value of the property is going to maintain its worth. Nobody can guarantee that, but clearly there's more of a chance of that if the property is worth more to start with.
And on a normal residential purchase, for example, normally like that property would be, the mortgage would be paid off on a full repayment basis at retirement. Yeah. This is different, isn't it? Because because more times here in later life lending, the lender is going to have to deal with this issue themselves, rather than it being the seller, the owner of the property having to sell that property. It's the lender that's going to have to inherit this problem later on.
That's right, because as you say, for a traditional mortgage, they're functioning on the basis that they hope they don't ever have to take possession of that property, but they will allow for it in case they do. Whereas with the later life loan, the one thing that they will have to do at some point, whether it's because the applicant has gone into long-term care, or you know, sadly if the applicant is no longer with us, and they then have to sell that property. So they know that whatever happens, they will have to sell that property at some point. Whereas on a regular mortgage, that's what they hope not to have to do, but will allow for it just in case.
Hopefully that helps explain why there are minimum property values.